Thanks for joining me on episode 549 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Jeff Brown from the Read to Lead podcast, challenging you to reach true success in business and in life through consistent and intentional reading. One way to be inspired to success is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, with my friend Scott Mater.
With curiosity, try to find out what's going on in the other person's life. What can I do to add value to them? What can I do to build them up? What can I do to make their life a little better today? Think about it. If more people did this, then it really isn't about sharing is caring. It's about caring is caring. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world. In today's episode about developing your influence through stewarding your talent, I talk with you about why the statement sharing is caring isn't always true, how you can know when to share and when to be silent, and why caring is more important than sharing. You've heard me talk about developing your talent, and one of the best ways to do that is through books. But if you're like most people today, it's hard to find the time to read, and that's why today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Go to inspiredstewardship.com/audible to sign up, and you can get a 30-day free trial. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from, and you can pick one and listen your way to developing your talents via Audible. That's inspiredstewardship.com/audible to get your free trial and listen to great books the same way you're listening to this podcast. Sharing is caring. You know, we say this to each other. We say it to our kids. We say it to people all of the time. But the truth is that statement has a lot of social baggage that comes along with it. If you think about it, when you were a kid, or perhaps if you have a young child, you would often tell the child that sharing is caring. And immediately after that, we would often take a toy from the child and force them to let another child play with the toy. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with sharing. In fact, it can be a very good thing. If you have more than enough of something, or even just enough of something, and you take the opportunity to choose to give that over to other people, that is a very caring thing. And you get intrinsic and extrinsic rewards for that. But if it's sharing that came by force, then you usually don't get those same emotional rewards. It then doesn't really pay off in the long run. But there's more to it than even just that kind of surface level approach. The truth is also that sharing is often about us, but caring is about others. You know, when you come into a situation where someone is grieving and you begin to tell them about a similar situation that you went through, that sharing doesn't usually come across in a caring way. I mean, it's all well and good to empathize and sympathize with other people, but sharing everything about our own experiences and not giving the person a chance to actually share about theirs is not a very caring thing. The truth is, we often use sharing as an opportunity to make the conversation about us. If we are listening to someone else, we listen just long enough to be able to interject with a response that turns the conversation so that we can share more about our own needs, our own wants, our own desires. You know, this happens online and off. How often have you accepted a friend request from someone and the very first message you get from them is basically about how you should like their page or buy their service or what they can give you? usually with strings attached, at least hidden ones. That doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel caring. In network situations, people come up and immediately begin to tell you all about their business. In fringe situations where a friend is always focused on what they can get out of the relationship. No matter what it is, if the truth is the sharing is always one direction, then it just isn't caring anymore. Often the best thing we can do is actually not share if we want to care. Instead, we can remain silent or we can ask questions. When people are grieving is a great example of this. Oftentimes people say, I don't want to go visit with someone who's grieving because I don't know what to say. And the truth is, often the best thing to say is nothing at all, but just be there. The truth is, sometimes whenever people are struggling, they don't need your advice. They need your presence. They need you to be there with them. And that is going to be one of the most caring things you can do. And notice it's not sharing in that case, it's being. The truth is the focus that we should have is on the caring part, not the sharing part. And caring is other focused. Caring is about finding out what the other person needs and then either helping them get it or at least going on that journey with them while they find it for themselves. Sharing is not necessary in those situations. And the truth is, we always have these kinds of opportunities. We have chances to share. We have chances to make it all about us. We have chances where we can turn a conversation into something where we get to talk about who we are and what we do and what we say and what we want. But we also have opportunities to remain silent or to ask questions and to seriously, with curiosity, try to find out what's going on in the other person's life. What can I do to add value to them? What can I do to build them up? What can I do to make their life a little better today? Think about it. If more people did this, then it really isn't about sharing is caring. It's about caring is caring. So what ways can you find to really care for the people around you, to perhaps remain silent when you should instead of sharing too much, and really find a way to spend your time caring about others? And through that, what you'll discover is when we talk about developing your influence, that's how you develop your influence. You do it through sincere curiosity. You do it through questions. You do it through caring about others, by not being challenged and fearful, but instead open and curious. You will discover that that's the true path to caring. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of talent, you can go over to inspiredstewardship.com/talent and sign up for our 5-week series on the stewardship of talent. Or if you're in the U.S., you can text 44222 talent tips. That's talent tips to 44222 and get those tips. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.